Courtney, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Really?
I just got it up.
All right, hold on. Well,
there you are.
Hello, Governor. Well, welcome to everyone who's with us, or still going to jump on as we talk about Queen Charlotte, and I on here I called it season 2.5 because Queen Charlotte was a season like right after they finished season 2 with the whole deal with Kate and Anthony. They dropped Queen Charlotte, and Queen Charlotte was actually special in the fact that I didn't know until I was watching, I guess when season 3 came out is when I found out that all of Bridgerton came from a book series. I didn't know that. And then when Queen Charlotte came out, though, Queen Charlotte was the only thing that was actually written by Shonda Rhimes. This is a Shonda Rhimes project, and she took this on, I guess, as executive producer or what have you. And it's actually a series by Julia Quinn, but Queen Charlotte is in the Bridgerton universe, and it is a series that all of that was written by Shonda Rhimes. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Hello, Hunting Violets. Nice of you to show up.
Hello. Oh, I forgot my Bridgerton jacket. Hold on, let me get my Bridgerton jacket real fast. I gotta get prepared. What was I thinking?
Look, see, that's what y'all not knowing. See, Courtney, she got the merch. She got all the stuff. I don't got none of that.
I should have had some tea. I don't know what I was thinking, but
had a spot of tea. Had a spot of tea.
See my Bridgerton University jacket.
That's actually pretty fresh though, and it's in the lilac, like the wisteria.
Yep.
All right. Hello.
Now I'm ready.
Romar. That's my brother on there.
Hello.
That's my brother. I don't know if Romar, have you seen Bridgerton, and is that something that the wife made you sit down and do, and y'all had sexy time and little Bridgerton? Yeah. Courtney got the jacket, right?
I'm doing the most. If I had been thinking properly, I would have had a cup of tea ready for me actually discuss this evening's.
Yes, ready for the ton.
Yes, I'm
ready for the ton.
That's exactly
had a proper
this evening's discussion. That's what I meant to say.
Now here's the thing, and I know that we are a little bit late to it, but that is okay because
listen, you just came on to it. Listen, I had to bully him, and in a nice, friendly way. I won't say bullying. I say encouraged. I strongly encouraged him to watch these series.
And anybody that was on here and heard our live about season 2 knows that I had bowed out after season 1. Season 1, the whole thing with Daphne and Simon, the second half of the season turned into penthouse stories, and I was just like, you know what, I'm out. I can't, I was single dude. I was like, I don't want to watch this. This is, it's not for me. However, when season 3 was announced, when season 3 was announced and it was close to coming on, everyone was telling me how much I had missed, including Courtney. She told me how much I had missed in season 2 and in Queen Charlotte. And they was like, you really need to go back and watch that. And she did do some light, heavy suggestions. She voluntold me. She voluntold me. You go watch this.
Voluntold you.
All right. All right. Hunting Violet says there's a novelization of Queen Charlotte season now, co-written by Shonda Rhimes and Julia Quinn.
I know, and I'm excited for this. I'm going to have to go find it.
Okay. Hello, Demo.
Hi, Centel.
All right, we out here. Yep, we are. Thank you for showing up, Hunting Violets, Demo, Romar, Centel. So let's jump into Queen Charlotte. You know, the funny thing about things that have gone past, the longer it's gone past, because now I've finished season 2, finished Queen Charlotte, and finished season 3. It's been a while since, you know, we were in the ton like that. And I think the interesting thing about Queen Charlotte is that Queen Charlotte is a real figure in history. I was actually just reading something today where someone wanted to argue the validity of what Shonda Rhimes wrote and said, you know, that Queen Charlotte was not a person of color.
But even though it's like it's historical fact that she was, she had ethnic ancestry. So the only thing that Shonda Rhimes has done and has admitted to do is that, you know, the dramatization, and then also that technically where they are situated, it's like what, 15 or something like that, or 16, 15.
Yeah, one, like of 16, one of those.
15, anyways, she's supposed to die in like 16,
yes.
15, 18, one of them. Yeah. And, you know, and they're very close to that. And she has specifically said that they are not adhering to that timeline, that this is basically their alternate timeline, and that Queen Charlotte is not going anywhere. So that's the only thing that she has taken the strong liberty. Oh, 18. Okay, thank you. I knew it was 18. I knew there was an 18.
Because technically, and I'm a little fuzzy, but I think that Victoria, who eventually became Queen Victoria, was born in around the end of 1818 or 1819.
It was 1818. So
when at the end of Queen Charlotte, at the end of Queen Charlotte, when she found out that her son and his wife had gotten pregnant and they were going to be welcoming a girl, and they were going to call her Victoria, which is also interesting because not like they had sonograms and things back then, but sure, you know, sure, we already know it's a girl and her name is Victoria. But I don't think that she was ever, I don't think that Queen Charlotte actually lived to see that child being born. I could be wrong, but I think it's not much. If she did, it wasn't long after that she passed.
Okay. I don't know that part. I thought that I read that she died right after the baby was born, but I totally do not stand behind that statement, as Hunting Violets just corrected me that it was not 16, it was 18. So therefore, I don't know. They moved Victoria's birth earlier. Yes, they had a feeling it would be a girl. Yeah, a strong feeling. The wife, the old the midwives, and the baby is sitting low, or no, the baby is sitting high. I think it's high. It's supposed to be a girl, and if it's sitting low, it's supposed to be a boy. So they probably had one of those little special midwives back in the day.
It's funny too, because like in real life, like Charlotte was Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, which is Miro, Germany, which is quite interesting. Just, thinking about how a person of color, whether she was light, bright, damn near white, it doesn't matter. She was a person of color, got to be royalty in that. And I know that a lot of people are up in arms when they first saw this, and they said, that this was problematic, and we're just switching a race of people just to be switching a race of people. But I mean, to be honest, when people don't know their history, they don't know what they're talking about. They get on the internet and they wrong and loud about being wrong and stuff. It's just like people upset. There's a new video game coming out, Assassin's Creed something Red or whatever, set in China, uh, or set in China, Japan, one of them. And the protagonist in the game is a black samurai named Yasuke. And people are up and set. How dare they do
Yasuke
this to the game? Except for the fact that Yasuke really existed.
really existed. Yeah.
And the whole
That's
show,
the series on that.
Shogun that just went off was a characterization of Oda Nobunaga, and one of his chief samurais was Yasuke. But you have to actually know your history to know some of these things. So I don't want to get too far off into history. Let's talk
Well,
about
I was just going to say
Queen
that
Charlotte.
the last thing
Go ahead.
before we move on is that even before Bridgerton came out, the discussion of Queen Charlotte's ancestry came up when Meghan Markle was introduced to the royal family,
Right.
and they were saying that they were the last time a person of color had been a prominent figure in the royal lineage
Court.
was Queen Charlotte. So for people to come out and say, oh no, they're rewriting history, that tells me you had not been paying attention when Harry and Meghan got married. So, keep up. But yes, let's get into this show because Queen Charlotte is my favorite of all the Bridgerton series. I love number one. I loved season one, but when this one dropped, yeah, it was no question.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I was voluntold to watch these, but actually, and it's funny though because we have another show that we star on called Bingeworthy. And we're with a few other people on Bingeworthy as co-hosts with us. And we talked about Bridgerton season 3. And one of the things that, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I remember Cortney and one of our other cohorts saying was that how did she put it? Catherine said the moist meter. She said the moist meter had went down because there wasn't as much sexy in some of these other seasons like there was in season 1. And listen, I don't know nothing about the moist meter.
It's the reason that Grey's Anatomy has been on for like 22 seasons. So
what is the moist meter?
Yeah, everybody's getting busy in the on-call room on Grey's Anatomy, but same with Scandal. I mean, that Oval Office never saw so much action.
I mean, that's facts.
That's facts. But yeah, Queen Charlotte, I just don't even like the moist meter was high, like all the meter, the story meter was high, the characters, like everybody, you could root for every single one. Even, you have the picture of the queen or George's mother.
Yes, the
formerly
Queen Dowager.
The Queen Dowager, yes. She was fantastic. She was someone that you enjoyed watching them just like sizzle on the screen. Even though you didn't agree with her, even though you were upset with what she was doing to Centel clearly did not see that episode when we were getting into season 3. But like she was fantastic. Everybody was. All the stories blended into each other. They all had a perfect, seamless conclusion. And even like Lady Danbury, like we learned more about her history. It was just all the ducks lined up perfectly. And I cannot say enough about this series. Like the actress that played Queen Charlotte, who I'm sure you have her name ready. I've seen her on several interviews. You don't have her. Okay, I'll pull it up. But I watched her on different interviews, like both her and the Queen Charlotte in the Bridgerton series. I know her name.
So her name is India.
Yes.
Amartifio. Sure, right. India Amartifio. Not exactly where she's from, but she did.
She's British as well.
Is she British? She did her thing.
Yeah, And then Golda Rushuvo.
Rashova, yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
plays
is
the
Queen Charlotte
older.
in the Bridgerton
Hmm.
series, and she was in the Flash forwards for Queen Charlotte. Because
Yes.
we were lucky enough to have them both in there. And she was just so incredible. They were so perfectly cast together. It's like she had the fire, she had the grit, she had the intelligence. She was someone that, was passionate and lovable. Like you really loved her. And honestly, watching this young version of her and then see who she grows up to be, I'm like, oh man, like she had so much love for her husband, and then to see her with her kids, it was like it was bittersweet.
It was, and the funny thing about history is when you're going through class and you're learning about the history of, especially the British royal line, they gloss over and they'll come back and they'll stop at King George just to talk about the madness. And he's been the subject of many TV shows and a few movies. The madness of King George. Now, I know in 2024 there's probably a name for his condition or what he had, and of what he had or what he was suffering from. I'm not aware, um, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
to
They
see
did a
it,
lot of speculation that it was tied to his diet and the foods and things like that he was eating, and then like speculation on bipolar or manic. There was a lot of speculation, but no one really knows.
and the thing about it is to see it. It was very visceral on screen to see what the doctor was doing to him in the so-called name of science to solve it. And the thing is, even though this was 1800, 1815s or what have you, it was the mid 1800s. Um, the thing is, that's not new. I mean, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and there is a hospital here that is now closed, Waverly Manor. And at one time, it was the number one tuberculosis hospital in the country. And they sent people
Mhm.
here to be cured of that malady that is tuberculosis. However, and we're talking about up to the 1950s, 1960s, maybe, that the same stuff that we saw on screen that they were doing to George was the exact same stuff that they were doing here. Yes, in America
What?
at this yeah, like Waverly, the manor here is considered, for those people that believe that sort of thing, it is in the top 10 of most haunted places in the United States right now, like real life haunting, because the number of people that died there from mysterious causes or medical experiments. um, so that doctor, to see that play out, and the fact that George subjected himself to that, um, because he wanted to be better. And Hunting Violet said that that they think he has some form of bipolar disorder, maybe
Yeah,
later dementia, and
yeah.
Monique even threw in that it was maybe schizophrenia, um,
Well,
which it could have
yeah,
very
I've
well
heard
been any
bipolar.
and all of
Yeah. It was just really heartbreaking to see, because when he was lucid, he was wonderful. When he was um I don't even know if it was, I can't say on the correct medication, because they were just getting lucky. But seeing how much like I am really passionate about this show. Like I love this show so much. Queen Charlotte is literally my favorite. So like I don't know how many
right.
times
I want
I
to.
watched
I
this
do want to say
series.
a special shout out to Jason. Jason is watching us right now, so it is about almost 5 o'clock in the morning for Jason. So yeah, I know Germany is 6 hours ahead. So thank you, Jason, for
What?
showing up. Yeah.
Yes, hello from Germany. Oh, yay! Thanks for tuning in. Um, yes, like I first of all, his name is Corey. What? Milcrest. That's what I'm looking him up right now. Yeah, Milcrest.
Mm-hmm.
He was wonderful.
He was.
I enjoyed watching him. He, and not just because he was pretty, but I also because he was a really good actor. I thought that their chemistry right from the beginning, when he saw her trying to jump over the fence, trying to figure out how she could get over this wall, like from
Mm-hmm.
that moment on, I was hooked on them. I was hooked
Yeah.
on them as a couple, and I was rooting for them. And I think that for me is a lot of what I found in the other two seasons. Even at some points, season one, I wasn't always rooting for the hero couple because sometimes they annoyed
Mm-hmm.
me. But
They
from
did.
the beginning to the end of this series, I was rooting for them. And I thought
Yeah,
that,
I was rooting for them too, but it's one of those kind of things too. Is like because this wasn't just a story, I knew that it was rooted in actual historical, and realness. So I kind of knew that they were going to be together. I knew that they were going to have 97.48 kids. So I knew that that was coming. Just the dramatization of how they got there, especially how on their wedding day, how he completely flipped the script on her and just became a different person. Um, the grand experiment, like all of that was super interesting to watch play out on screen.
mm-hmm,
And Centel has said it in here several times, and I am for it. And Hunter Violets is saying this that Lady Danbury spinoff miniseries. I'm sure she had more romances than we've seen. Listen, I'm all for it. The actress who played the young Lady
Lady
Agatha
Danbury.
Danbury,
Yeah.
Joa Endo. Listen, she had my full attention.
She was charming and incredibly smart. And watching Lady Danbury learn and become the Lady Danbury we know her as, who she will be,
Mm-hmm.
during her, heyday. Like watching her, that scene when it's the Princess Dowager or the Princess Augusta, because she wasn't the queen, she was the princess. That's what they have her listed as. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when she told Lady Danbury, she was like, "No, I need you to get over this crying. I need you to fix
Yeah.
this. I need you to be who I need you to be, because this
Well,
is
it's
not
because because she valued her as an opponent. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah."
almost like playing chess. And when you're sitting apart, sitting across from a really good player, you enjoy the game, the back and forth. And Lady Danbury had it for us. She came with it and had demands because the whole interesting, not beyond the grand experiment, the whole thing of how they, um, I guess, gave temporary, titles and prestige to a lot of the people of color who, which was interesting, that Violet herself was the one that pointed out about Lady Danbury. Is like,
Mhm.
you know, real talk, they got more money than we got. You know what I'm saying? Lady Danbury herself, not her husband, was a princess from back in Africa.
Africa.
She had more money than everybody in the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lord, Lord blessed be to have title and prestige, and she had that super senior citizen just jumping up and down on her. Bless her heart.
And old big dude. Like, I mean, no offense, but
Uh,
he just wasn't even kind to her. Like, he didn't talk
mm-mm.
to her with respect. Like, if he had been a charming, kind of lovable Santa Claus kind of dude, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it would have been it would have been okay. We know that
Uh,
things happen, and arranged marriages have no discrimination on size or anything. If he had just been a good person, he wasn't, you know.
Monique says she felt for Lady Danbury having to have Frederick Douglass jumping up and down on top of her. Listen, you have never lied. Like I felt bad for her just for that alone.
Yes,
I was
thank
like,
you for clearing that up, Hunting Violets. I knew she was the dowager princess because her husband died before he could be king, so
yes,
she was never queen consort. Yes,
yes. And then when her husband died, he was a prince. He was in line to be king. He
and then George
died,
became king.
but how was it? Because I remember she said that she didn't have a choice because then her husband's father, who was cruel, took to her and I don't know, made her a side piece. I don't know, like how did that?
See, I didn't necessarily take it. I didn't understand that. I didn't know what I was supposed to get from that because her husband died before he could be king. So the father was still king. So he was still living. So he was the
Yeah,
king, and therefore her
but
son was the heir apparent, and or the crown.
but I don't know. Was George her husband's son, or was
Yeah,
he the king's son?
no, he was her husband's son. He was
Okay.
Prince George before, just like his father had been Prince whoever he was. But because the father died before you know, the father died before I think George was still a little boy. So the king
Mm,
was still, it's like
okay.
it's almost like Charles. Charles is still living. William is the son. If William died before George is the oldest one. Yeah, George is the oldest boy. Then
Hmm.
George would just be the crown prince. Do you know what I'm saying? He would
Yeah.
just he would
I
just
just didn't know because I know that she said specifically to Lady Danbury that that her husband's father took a
yeah,
liking to her
he took
and
over George. He took over like everything. Like she didn't really have a chance to really to A rule, and B even do much in her marriage because it sounded to me like she wasn't married very long before her husband died. Like she got pregnant, had George, and then the husband died, and she was stuck with the old like crotchety king. That's
yeah. So I don't know if it's
that's
like
what I
she
took from it.
became his side piece or became the de facto queen to him or however that worked out. But um, I know whatever she said, she had to go through a lot of machinations because he had other children by other women, and she had to do a lot to make sure that George was the guy.
Well, yeah, if you think about like Robert Baratheon, do you know what I'm saying? Like just in
Yeah.
terms of Game of Thrones, Cersei took out all those kids. She was like,
Hmm.
and they were actually his blood. Her little raggedy children weren't even actual Baratheons, but she took
Yeah.
them
All
all
them
out except for
her
Gendry.
children should have been born with an eye in the middle of their forehead or something.
Anyways,
Look,
we getting off topic, but in terms, oh my god, exactly, it was just like House of the Dragon. But in
yeah.
terms of because like here comes Aegon taking over, and Rhaenyra was supposed to be the queen.
Hmm.
But anyways, so I think that Princess Augusta, she did what she had to do in terms of like, I just need an heir. So I need
Hmm.
you to get me an heir so that we can keep this legacy running. And ultimately, now that I think about it, how interesting that Queen Charlotte ultimately becomes her mother-in-law and to
Hmm.
her kids. Like, I need y'all to get me an heir. Like
Yeah.
somebody has to keep this going. And to see it come full circle, like I literally hadn't even thought about that. But
Hmm.
yes, King George II was just mean to George and his mother. He didn't take a liking to her, not a sex thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think so. She was just her saying, it was her suggesting that like they had a terrible time after her husband died. She was
Hmm.
left at the mercy. Basically, she's like Cinderella at the mercy of this like crazy old dude. You know what I mean? Prince Charming.
Well,
Well,
not only that, in the royal circus, it's cutthroat. When people are
yeah.
vying for the crown, it is cutthroat, and they have to kill you and your whole lineage just so that they can claim the crown. So,
Yeah, because just think if King George had taken another wife, you know what I mean? If he had
hmm,
taken a wife and had another child, I think that's what she meant. She was trying to keep that from happening because then the king has another son or what have you that could have gone awry. But I feel like we should go back to like the carriage ride from the beginning, like where we saw
okay,
Queen Charlotte coming from Germany, and her brother basically has forced her into this
yeah,
marriage.
it's almost like he sold her off. Like I don't know what,
Yeah,
because the little dude that was at their castle in Germany in Miro, she saw the dude in there, and they were signing papers and stuff like that. So, they made a deal, but and something that we talked about too, in Bridgerton, how watching this can become difficult, especially for people who don't understand the times because of the amount of patriarchy. Like this
Mhm.
was very much a man's world, and Charlotte, even though she objected to her brother, he was the count or whatever, and
Mhm.
she really didn't have a whole lot of
She
say.
didn't have a
Like her
choice.
brother, being brotherly, tried to be like, "This is a good deal for you. Like you're gonna go and be the Queen of England. Like it don't get no better than
Yeah.
that." And in
Listen.
2024, and we live in gold digger society, and everybody's looking for the bag. That sounds wonderful, but
Exactly.
that wasn't what Charlotte was on. She's like, I don't even know this dude. Like, I
But
don't.
that, to Demo's point, that the brother didn't really have a choice. He didn't have a choice, but at the same time, like I totally agree with you. Like he was trying to make moves and make a better deal for himself, for his title, for his place in the time, quote unquote. And ultimately, he needed her to get on board. Because
Hmm.
listen, as much as I hate to say it and think about it, it literally, the daughters were the chess pieces. They were the moves in order to get. I mean, all the children were sons and daughters, like in terms of like the second sons or the daughters.
Hmm.
It was about moving up in standing. Having kids in order to like help the rest of the family or move the family up to that next tier. Like that's why the Featherings had such a hard time, because they're always
Yep.
trying to get to that next level. And with Queen Charlotte, she was a little bit alliances. Yes, I like that. That's a great word.
That's actually what
uh,
I was getting ready to say. Thank you, Hunting
yeah.
Violets. Like I was just gonna
Yes.
say that a lot of the royals made these alliances and married themselves, into other families. Sometimes it's because one family may not have as much money, and that kind of helps their coffers. But a lot of times too, it is for position and for power.
Mm-hmm.
What we see from watching Bridgerton is that outside of Queen Charlotte's purview, the probably the most well established, and I don't know if they're the richest, but the most well established family does seem to be the Bridgerton family. That they seem to be, where everything revolves around them. That may not be true, and that may just be the family that we're focusing on, but it does seem that you can see from these different pairings that all they're doing is strengthening their family by
Mm-hmm.
being paired up to these other families.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Demo had another. He was like, to this day, marriage in the royal family is a strategic move. Look at Princess Diana marrying old Prince, uh, Prince Charlie. Like,
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I'm saying?
gross.
But even if you look at, everybody thought that Prince Harry was gonna marry this other lady, the one he was with for so long, and she just didn't want to be in the royal family. She just didn't want to be scrutinized,
Hmm.
and in that, but everybody thought it was gonna be her, and she was like, "Nah, fam, I'm not trying to. I can't do that."
She said,
You know,
"Nah, I'm good.
like, no, not today.
Good B."
Um,
Yeah. She's like, I got
uh,
too many skeletons in my closet. No, sir.
yeah,
Cannot go through
but
that.
what's her Princess Charlotte, or yeah, well, no, Queen Charlotte. She When she came into that, she was still kind of idealistic, and still understood that the marriage had to happen, but she also wanted to have some sort of autonomy. And I love that she never lost that, because even when she gets to there, and the queen has dressed her up in this horrible dress,
Oh,
and she was like,
God.
I already have a dress. Actually, I have this
Mhm.
prepared. It has been sized specifically for me. She had all her, she thought about it.
Yeah.
And the queen was like, no, you're gonna wear this.
Yeah. She's like,
Put on
yeah,
that red dress, and that's what sent her
that
over the wall.
little little fashion stuff that y'all doing out there, that's the country stuff y'all do in Germany. It's not how we get down in England.
Right?
You're gonna look because she hit it with the almost it reminds me of the Crown Act. Like you're gonna look proper. You're gonna look,
Mm-hmm.
this way. And she's like, listen, it's not how I roll. I
Yeah.
love how she did what she wanted to do anyway at the
Mm-hmm.
end. She's
Yeah.
like, no.
She wore
I
what she
did
wanted to
love that
wear.
about Queen Charlotte. Yeah.
And she never lost that. And I love seeing that that element of her and her attempting to try and conform, and then, you know, recovering her own sense of self. Because if we see the Queen Charlotte now with the headpieces, with the swans like rotating
Ah,
in her headpiece, this is
listen.
someone who owns their autonomy. And I am so here for that. It's what like me as a woman watching, I'm like, yes, I want to be all those things. Because I remember being a little kid in junior high wearing crazy outfits to school, and everybody was like, "Why are you wearing that? That is terrible." Like and parts of my little, sixth grade soul died, and I did try to conform, and then ultimately it was like, no, I can't be anybody but me. So I'm always gonna find my place. So seeing a character like this, a woman of color who is very much like in her power as a queen, no matter how ostentatious someone may think, they will never dare to say that to her again. You know?
So let me ask you this. So one of the criticisms that's come on both sides of the equation is about the representation
Nope.
in
I like Monique's
in
comment.
yeah, what she say?
She said,
Augusta, Georgia.
Augusta doesn't have that melanin drip like Charlotte.
Yeah, she does not. She does not. And so the thing is, representation is important. You just talked about, you remembered a time when you were a little girl and things like that. So I think, especially in today, seeing this type of representation in Bridgerton is important. However, even though we're getting Shonda Rhimes to make sure that diversity and representation has been attributed to in all of the series, was there a difference to you, like in your head? And I'll answer after you answer. Um, with the difference in like Simon being the Count, being the Duke in season one, and then seeing Queen Charlotte and then her own series where now we get to see Lady Danbury and things like this and more color in the ton. Did it make a difference to you or is it all the same?
Um, you mean, well, here's the thing. It's interesting. I think that's a two-handed sword for me, because me watching the series, I accepted the world that was given to me. So seeing
Hmm.
Simon as the Duke, I accepted that. It didn't necessarily like I registered it, obviously, but I accepted it. So it didn't necessarily either add to and or take away. But again, I'm an actor and colorblind casting is a thing, so my brain made space for it. But I will say, as someone who is used to watching television shows that are predominantly one ethnicity, whether it's all white or white and maybe an Asian or Latina and like no black characters at all, it absolutely made a difference. Because here you see like not just a black character as like, say, the footman, like she is the queen, then there's Lady Danbury, who is the most important person, second most important person in the time, and then you have the Duke who comes in. So you very rarely do you, unless it's a black series, do get more than one black woman in a position of power, in a position at all. So for me to see that was incredibly encouraging. And it was also aspirational for me as a creative, as a writer, as an actor. So yes, as an audience member, I accepted it, but as a creator, it made all the difference.
Okay. Well, along those same lines, and of course, I am nowhere near the caliber of actor that you are, my dear. Um, however,
Um,
I mean, you out
we're
there,
all
you out there.
actors. Listen, we not. There's no hierarchy. If you're an actor, you're an actor. So,
Listen, there's a
so.
there's a difference on the zeros on our checks. I know that. So, um,
Continue
um,
with what you were
I
going to say.
I think when they show things like this, even a period drama, and to show a person of color, I was prepared to see a man of color. So to see Simon the Duke didn't really phase me like that. You know, have him chase after Daphne. I was like, this is somewhat typical. I think the only thing that was not typical for me was the writing, where they didn't make him feel less than. They didn't make him feel like he wasn't really a part of it. You know, he kind of came in the room, commanded the room, and, you know, and barked out orders, and people started jumping to and doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I like
Mhm.
that. But I think more importantly for me, seeing Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury meant everything. Like,
Mhm.
the, you know, to see the, you know, the two, the HNIC was these two powerful women. I loved every bit of that. I am for diversity. I love seeing Kate and Edwina in season 2. I thought that was fantastic. Um, but just to see the way that Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury held everything down, I thought it was an important statement for TV. And I know that people are going on about stuff being woke or whatever. There's too many women doing stuff. I didn't see a problem with it at all. I thought that they really held it down. And like you said, I think it's important that we see stuff like when we saw Black Panther and I got to saw T'Challa on screen. I've been a fan of T'Challa since I was a little kid, since I started reading comic books.
Mhm.
Um, just because he was a different, he spoke to me. To see it on screen meant something altogether different. But I cannot take away from, as much as Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of T'Challa meant to me. Listen, Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda was everything.
Was
Everything,
everything. Yeah,
everything. Listen, I was
because
like,
yeah, it I mean, Angela Bassett in pretty much everything
it's Angela
for
Bassett.
me. But I think I get so angry when I see um that there is only one black woman in a show,
Mm,
and usually they'll opt to have a black male opposed to they'll give you two black males and not one black female unless it's more than one black woman in a show. So to see Angela Bassett, to see Letitia Wright, to see Lupita Nyong'o, like to see all of
yeah.
them, and
Denai Guerrera.
yes,
Yeah.
Denai Guerrera, like all of them in one film. And it was, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that was power. And that's kind of how I feel about this series. To your point, for television. Now, I think that for me, I think I accepted it more because like I have seen it in ways like in other period piece Victorian era shows, like Carnival Row had a lot of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Bridgerton, uh, there were there's another show on this right on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. But to see, Simon going after Daphne, though I appreciated it and wasn't necessarily surprised to see him going after, a white woman, I would very much like to see, other than, yes, they gave us the Mondriches, they gave us a happy black couple. I would like to see, a
Mm-hmm.
black man romancing a black woman. I would like to see that. Is it okay? Like Francesca and she's nice, she's real pretty, very fairy
Lord
like.
Kilmartin. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Lord Kilmartin.
Mm-hmm.
When Lord Kilmartin showed up, I was like, man, why couldn't we save him for like somebody else? Like, listen, if they don't make Sophie, who is going to be Benedict's future wife, if they don't make
Mm-hmm.
her a black woman, I'm going to be real angry. And I don't think they're going to, because they made Michaela a black woman.
Yeah, instead of Michael.
So now she's romancing Francesca. And I'm like, why can't we get like somebody in, I want a black woman in the Bridgerton crew.
Because
And
that
yes,
probably would have been too much for Benedict. He's so far out there, and he's so just out there floating on the wind. Now he's out here dibbling, dabbling with men's and women's and stuff. They put a black woman on that boy. He listen. He'll give up being a Bridgerton. He'll take her last name. That's too much for him. He's too
wait,
much.
what? Who's too much for him? Benedict?
Yes,
Is Sophie? Listen,
yes.
I
Listen.
don't know. Well, I'm Hunting Violets has read the book, so I'm pretty sure she can correct me. I think because Benedict's wife is from the lower. She's not in the Ton. She
Mm-hmm.
is someone who is a worker, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he falls in love with her.
Yeah.
So and marries her
Yeah,
anyway.
because Benedict is not concerned about the town or everywhere. He has the distinct pleasure of being the second son, so he can pretty much get away and do with whatever he wants to do. So,
Well,
Centel
Snuggle,
has said
I don't
earlier.
want to ruin. There are things that are coming down the pike, but I'm not gonna ruin it for anybody. I have read spoilers on the book, so I know what's happening, but I'm not gonna say anything.
So Centel has said earlier that as far as our discussion about the diversity in the show, that as long as it holds a place for story should always be paramount in these type of things. So not for they just diversifying the cast just for the sake of it. The story should be always first. But so he's asking, what do we think? Should it be about the diversity, about the representation, so that little boys and little girls, that we once were, can see themselves in these type of roles and these type of places, than not always in hood movies or what have you? Or should it be 100% about the story? And if it just turns out that the people in it are people of color, then so be it. What do you think?
I agree with Centel. I always start with the story. Always, because if the story is not solid, I know we're gonna do it separate. I've been trying to avoid saying things about season 3, but that was my main issue with season 3, were the elements of the story that were not solid for me. So in terms of, I would rather have story than anything else. Like that's first and foremost, because I will follow that. First is story, second is casting. Because you can cast somebody who is of, a diverse actor, and then they're just not good. I would rather you cast the best actor for the role, and if they happen to check both boxes that you're looking for, then great. But give me the actor that's going to A, bring the chemistry, and B, bring the truth to the character they're portraying.
Yeah, like, and I absolutely agree with you. I am a fan of story, and Centel and I have this discussion often, that when in any of these projects should be story, and then if it is a type of story that has a villain, how strong your villain is will make or break that project. Marvel has suffered from that for years. That they tried it out Loki, and Loki was super strong to start the entire franchise, and then we have got just run of the mill, ordinary everyday bad guy, and it just has not lived up. You got Loki, you got Thanos. Besides that, we got some clown shoes.
Yeah. And we could talk about that all day long. Like, we're just not even gonna go there because I have so many tangents. But in terms of this, I want to ask you, do you think Bridgerton has a villain?
So many people, not my particular take, but a lot of people seem to think that it's Lady Whistledown. Said that the way that she uses her pen, her quill and paper, is wholly irresponsible. She's an emotional writer, and she takes down a lot of people. She is, she's the Regency era TMZ. But there's no real research. She hears some rumors, she hears some things, and she takes people down. Um, not that I like gossip at all. Like I can't stand TMZ. But TMZ often does have the news first or whatever. They got the tea. Um, I
That's
kind of like I kind of like Penelope. Um, I understand her motivation for being Lady Whistledown, even though of some of it I don't agree with. And I think that she has used her pen very irresponsibly in the past. To the detriment of a number of people, including those close to her. I don't
see,
know the
I
secrecy and the things that she does. I don't know. As far as a villain, no. I think, and I know we're not going to get into season 3, but uh listen, Cressa the
um
Cowper.
she wanted to be. She wanted to be a villain so badly. And yet her mother was far better at being Lady Tremaine. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
from Cinderella. So it her mother was a much better villain. If they had Cressida she just didn't have the heat.
Well, the
And
thing is, I think
I really
I think
wanted her
Cressida had the attitude to go with it, but not the skill. Her mom had all the skill, but her mom stayed quiet. Her mom did all the heavy lifting and let Cressida take the credit for it.
but Cressida didn't Cressida had anger and fear.
She
Cressida
that
was
she did.
Kylo Ren. Cressida was
Oh,
Kylo Ren.
oh.
Okay? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be clear. That's who she was. She wanted to be so badly. She wanted to be,
Yes.
but her mother was a much better Vader
Oh,
because she kept to the
absolutely.
shadows. She knew what to do and how to do it. She just didn't do her research. And that's the one thing, and that's the reason that I don't think that Penelope is the villain per se. Do I think she's the Ton TMZ? Absolutely. But just like the Ton TMZ, she does her research, like whether or not she's standing on the shadows and in the sidelines listening to so and so says something about this house, then she goes and tiptoes over to that house to clarify. Because when she
Mhm.
came back and said, after Cressida's mom released that terrible um weekly edition and it was all
Yeah.
wrong because she came for the Bridgertons, like
Mm-hmm.
uh Lady Whistledown came back and said, no, this is this person is mean to their maid, this person did this person doesn't want to marry this person. You know what I mean? Like she came with facts. So all of her stuff, whether it was hurtful or misguided, it was always truthful. She never had to print a retraction. Everything she said was true.
Mm-hmm.
um and that's why I don't necessarily think of her as like a villain per se. She's almost like a soothsayer. She's like the Greek chorus, like coming
Mm-hmm.
out with the answers to move the story along. Like that's what Lady Whistledown is. And so for me, like, even though Queen Charlotte for me is more of a quote unquote villain you love to watch. Like, and she's not
Mm-hmm.
really a villain, but you're rooting for her. You want her to come out with some fire. You want her to come out and
Mm-hmm.
like say some sassafras stuff about Lady Whistledown. You want her to hunt down
She does. She
Lady.
keeps
You
people
want
on their
her to send
toes.
people
She
out
keeps them
to
on their
go and
toes.
find her. Hmm?
Yeah, she keeps them on their toes. So
Yeah. She keeps them on her toes and she keeps people jumping. And she kept Whistledown jumping, you know?
mm-hmm. Yeah, and all of the
So
people that she accused of being whistled down, like she kept
yeah.
them on their toes. So Monique 69 Ways Johnson was saying that Cressida was just trying to survive, and then Centel said, he agreed, he understood her why it was just her technique that needed work.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then,
Agreed.
but then Hunting Violet said she thought Cressida's mother was terrible, but she was also bad at it. She decided to take down the Bridgertons, and it was pathetic.
It
Mm.
was, I think it was more of a poorly executed deflection. She was desperate to try and help her daughter, to try and be a mother, because she had never done that. She sided with her husband in everything. And she didn't want Cressida to have to marry that like dried up old man and move to the country, and or move to the country. You know what I mean? Like
But
she wanted
yeah,
Cressida there. She wanted to
and
be able to still have her daughter parade around the town and make alliances.
mhm,
Agreed. She was bad at it. She didn't know what she was doing. It wasn't her choice, but Cressida forced her hand. And
yeah, and then not only that, so she like Lady Whistledown for right or for wrong, she listened. She was everywhere, because Penelope could go a lot of places and be invisible. People weren't really paying attention to her, so she could hear all the tea. She could get all the gossip.
I
Uh,
was gonna say,
Cressida's mama didn't have none of that, so she had to go. She make up tea so that it could be so. In her mind, that was the same spirit as Lady Whistledown, and it wasn't at all.
well, yeah, because Cress's mama doesn't listen to anybody. She doesn't even care about anybody else. She doesn't never even thought about anyone outside of herself until that very moment when she picked up that pen. Because for her, it was literally just being seen in the ton. Um, I will say that like I agree that Cressida was trying to survive. 100%, Monique. I am with you. And she was doing everything she could to not have to marry old dude and or move to the country. My favorite Cressida scene, and I know we're here to talk about Queen Charlotte, but my favorite Cressida scene is when she got Colin. When she came for Colin and set him straight,
Mm-hmm.
that was the best moment Cressida had of the
Yeah.
entire 3 seasons she was in. And she came correct in that one moment. So I did feel bad for her, but you can't necessarily you can't necessarily her worst moment, you can't necessarily come for somebody who is actively writing. It wasn't like Whistledown had like vanished. You know what I mean? She took a break, then came back and was writing, and then you came out and was like, "It's me, I did it." Girl, bye. What were you thinking?
Yeah, girl,
Um,
stop.
but in
No,
answer
here's the
to
thing.
that question,
Honey Violet said, "Who is the villain on Queen?" We went a little beaten path, and here's a hot take. I'm gonna say that the villain of Queen Charlotte was King George.
interesting. Please elaborate. His
I know
madness
it's
or
easy.
him? His
It's
madness or him?
easy. Um, okay, so it's easy to probably say the Queen Princess Dowager or Dr. Monroe,
I was going to
but
say the two of them
I,
together, the
yeah,
Princess Augusta and
they
Dr. Monroe.
they are the obvious choices for villain of this season. The reason I'm going to say King George, and I do understand, madness aside, the changes and things that he put Charlotte through. I don't know. I am a fan of an uncomfortable conversation, and a lot of misery could have been avoided with a few uncomfortable conversations. I know that she's part of the grand experiment. They're hiding, not only trying to get her pregnant as fast as possible so that he has an heir and has a legitimate bid, to stay king. They couldn't let out his illness because that would have damaged his standing or whatever. But there was a lot of things that he did that were just absolutely just mean hearted. Um, and understand a lot of people have trauma. And I heard once that it was said to me is like, when you're hurt and you're bleeding, if you don't ever try to get that taken care of, then you bleed on the other people that you come into contact with. And I just felt that after everything that he had been put through, that he took this somewhat innocent girl in Charlotte and bled all over her to begin with zero explanation. And it took her a long time to figure out who he was and what exactly she had even signed up to. Um, and I think it's unfortunate because I did want to root for him. And there were several times during the story where he would do some stuff, and I'm like, dude, like, are you for real? And yes, the main character is Queen Charlotte, and I'm following Queen Charlotte and her story. But there were just some things that he did to me that were not kingly and not befitting of a man who just entered into this marriage, even if it is a agreement, it is a business proposition on paper, whatever. So let's just.
Okay. Um, I'm going to come back to jump on that, but I did want to comment on Hunting Violet said, can we not call it madness? It's mental illness. Yes, he should have told Charlotte. The reason that I called it madness is because during that time period and on the show, that's what they called it. So that's the reason that I was referring to that. Like I'm sticking to the language of the show. I'm not necessarily, because we don't have a definite definition of what there's a lot of speculations and a lot of things as to like what caused his illness or what it was. But I also don't want to like label it anything present day, and just kind of like sticking to what it was in the series. That was the only reason that I said it madness.
Even to the point where some of the speculation has been that it was STDs, that it was
right, that it
so,
wasn't mental illness at all. That they literally don't know what it was. But I will say that I thought that in terms of what you said about King George, I can see that, and I totally agree that he should have told her. But this is someone who has been raised to believe that he is useless only for one purpose, and that's basically to be a stud horse. Like, don't say anything, don't talk to anybody, don't let anybody say, don't mess this up for us. That's literally what he was raised to think, that he was less than. I mean, or not raised, maybe not raised, because I don't know when his actual symptoms first began. When he started, because they talk about him as having I guess like a childhood where there were no instances of anything, and and all of a sudden there were, so I think, and I guess I don't want to say I gave him a pass, but I guess I understood that he literally hated himself. Like when you hate yourself so much or so afraid of who you are or what you may do to somebody else, for me, it felt like he was trying so hard to stay away from her. Like kind of like what he was saying when she came to him and said, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" And he couldn't say it. He wanted to say it because he did feel it, but he didn't want to give her hope because he didn't want her to be stuck with him. And me, as someone who like, I've never dated anyone who has suffered mental illness, but I have dated men who thought that they were like, "I don't know why you're with me." And I was like, if you don't know, what am I doing here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know how to fix that for you. Like, I
think a small part of it too was that, to your point, because I do think that you're right, and I know it's hot take, just me calling King George part of the villain crew, but I think where you were saying about being a stud horse or whatever, I think it's also too one of those things too that he was absolutely worried, terrified even of producing a child with Charlotte, because he knew what was going on with him in his mind. And if you're at least a modicum decent person, you don't want to pass that on to your child. If you have no idea why you are the way that you are, you don't want to pass that on to your kid.
Agreed.
So
yeah, that was something that, like, when the baby was born, like the mother was like, the Princess Augusta was like, does he seem okay? Does he, and George's like, he seems like a baby. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really nothing for us to say, like, he just let him be a baby, And I just think you're right that he didn't, but he also knew he had a job. He needed to produce an heir,
Yeah.
even if he thought he wasn't worthy.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess I don't know. Like it's hard in terms of like. I guess that's why I asked. Like I was glad that that question was presented. Like, who is the villain in Queen Charlotte? And I don't know, but I think that the villain is fear in a way because Princess
Ooh.
Augusta was so afraid. She was so afraid of anybody finding out, of Parliament finding out, of them losing the crown, of Charlotte not getting on board, of them not being able to produce an heir, of anybody finding out that George was ill. There was so much fear that they literally did everything that they possibly could, including torturing the king in order to like hide this. The fact that they didn't tell her, that was her biggest thing. And I appreciated her anger when she
Hmm.
found out and
Yeah.
she's pregnant with the baby and she
Yeah.
found out and she was like, how could they keep this from me? Like
Hmm.
nobody, you got me in here.
I think it's one of those things. I think you have an excellent point right there about it being fear. Who is it? Demo says that society is the villain in Queen Charlotte. Um, I think it's very interesting, and I can understand the Dowager Queen Augusta. I can understand her fear because the one thing we don't know is after her husband died, who she said her husband was a good man, she loved her husband, and then when he died and the father kind of took over or whatever, um, you have we have no idea what she did or put herself through to position herself and position George to be in the spot to be the king.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea. And the fact that, and for how many years that she did X, Y, and Z to get to put George in that position. And for all of that to have went away because someone doesn't understand his condition or because he has he spazzes out in public or something, and and somebody goes back and tell the lady whistle down of that time or whatever. Like it's
That's what I
I
was going to
I
say.
understand that absolutely. You know that you had to stay on top of your p's and q's at all time, just because so much could be lost. Um, yeah, I get that. So, and I think that is also part of the beauty of the writing, that we can point to several people in this and say that they were the villain. And even though there was not one distinct villain, besides maybe Dr. Monroe, I don't think anyone liked Dr. Monroe. And even the point was
Yeah,
made in
he
the
just
comments.
enjoyed it too much. Oh,
Yeah.
I will say he wasn't really a villain, but he irritated me. And that was George's butler or valet.
Oh,
Valet.
come on. Yes.
Like he irritated me. I had feelings, strong feelings. I was like, bro, you over here secreting and not saying anything, over here having your little secret relationship. Cool, that's great for you. But you didn't even tell Brimsley, right? That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brimsley is
Yeah.
her. It's her not butler. What's he
Her.
called? Her
I don't know.
all I can think of is
Valet.
number one, but he's not number one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Star Trek. Um, but like Brimsley's like, what's going on? Like, and old dude was just like, mm, mm, and then had the
Listen.
nerve to come in and was like, he has his good days, bro. I'm gonna need you to walk off. I'm gonna need you to walk
Yeah.
all the way
I
off.
need you to
Now that
bounce, my guy.
everything's been found out, now you got things to say. Go on somewhere right
Yeah.
now, because
Mm-hmm.
he should have been fired. I'm sorry, he'd have been out in them stables, mucking up horse poop for the remainder of his days.
Not only that, too, because I thought it was really, really weird, too, that Brimsley and King George's
To look up
valet
his
or
name.
whatever,
He
his
made me
dude,
mad.
um, that they had that weird sexual
Reynolds.
tension, so they withheld from each other, whatever. Like they threatened each other with, all right, well, you're not getting in tonight while they, occupied or whatever. It's just like this. It went weird, but
Like
he should have said quite
more.
a bit. Yeah.
I mean, he should have been over here like leaving secret letters, whistle down. He should have been the whistle down of the freaking of this household, sending letters to Brimsley with not signed. Like this is what's happening. Like look for these clues. Like
Mm-hmm.
something. Like honestly, I understand he had a hard job. I understand he's been with him since he was a kid or whatever. Even though he wasn't that old, but I feel that I just wanted more. He got on my nerves. So he was my villain, my personal villain, even though I don't think they're necessarily what I think. Fear and Society. I think Demo said Society, or
Mm-hmm.
I do agree that those are the actual villains, but he was my personal villain, and I wanted somebody to punch him in the face.
I don't know if he was a villain, but I did want somebody to punch him in the face. I feel that. Yeah, just right in the Honey Violet said that George was in line to be the king unless his grandfather remarried and had another legitimate male heir. So yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Demo said something very interesting. Said, "Can you imagine George's fate without the power of the crown?
Yeah,
Like all that torture saw,
lobotomized.
that was with the crown. Can you imagine without the crown? He'd have been lobotomized.
Yeah, that's what I said. He would have been lobotomized.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, we don't in this series, we don't see everybody else. We don't see other than the modiste or the man who is the printer. We don't see the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We don't see any of these regular people. So like where are so I can imagine that if there were someone in the family, just think about what happened to what was the cousin's name? The one that Colin was in love with? It started with an M, right?
Marina.
Marina came from a family that she wasn't necessarily a great, her family didn't have money or power, but I think she had a title, but still she needed to marry because she was pregnant. So, and then when it came out, that whole thing, like she just kind of got lucky that the man's brother was like, okay, I'll marry you. But yeah, King George, I don't think he would have survived for very long if he were not king.
Yeah.
She didn't
said Marina did not have a title.
She did not have a title. Okay.
Okay. Something.
Thank you, Hunting Violets. Yeah, because I couldn't remember.
Something interesting that came up in season 3, but it originated in Queen Charlotte. Lady Danbury having her garden tended to. So,
by Violet's father.
And to think to the fact that it went back to, and I forget what Violet's, surname was, her maiden name before she became a Bridgerton, but the whole dalliances between, because like even the first time that Lady Danbury and a lot of the other folks stepped into the ball in the Ton, like Violet's father gave Lady Danbury a whole lot of attention. Like he was, and he just wanted to be nice. He just wanted to be gracious to our neighbors.
Did he? You saw his wife. His wife did not have a strong relationship. He was Lord Ledger.
Lord Ledger, yes.
Yeah.
Lord Ledger, and his wife had a nice little racist streak in her too, because she did not want to fool with those people. And
she was a peach of a hand. And not to go tombstone, but she was. And I felt bad for him. I was like, I can't condone it, but I understand.
yeah,
And
but
but to her, Lady Danbury was a widow, so at that point she did have a little bit more autonomy on her life to an extent, as long as it was hidden. um I was still hurt though, that because you knew he was never gonna leave his wife.
no. Mm-mm. And who knows that that's what Lady Danbury wanted. However, the
Demo is salty.
uh,
He said Lord
the
Ledger was a villain.
the
And
attention,
Hunting Violet had a great comment too that I totally
yeah,
agree with.
the attention that Agatha was getting from a much younger man, a man who seemed genuinely into her, um, she liked that.
What do you
I
mean, younger
don't
man?
like
You
how
mean younger
Lord.
than the husband she was married to?
I mean, yeah, younger than Moses that she was hanging out with, her husband, uh, Methuselah. Um,
Oh my god! Hunting Violet said they didn't like how Lord Ledger brought his daughter Violet so he could break up with Agatha without having to have the conversation.
yeah, that was weak
That was
sauce. That was
so
weak.
foul. It was
But
just a foul ball,
but
and
not
it was
only
just
that, I
dirty.
I had a problem with that too because it's like, regardless of a conversation that we never heard about whether he was going to leave his wife or any of that, it's just,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know,
didn't
the
even
whole
think
thing
she
about
wanted it to.
him tasting the forbidden fruit or whatever, just like I
Your little birthday crown. You brought your little raggedy crown over, you
yeah,
know, and then the crown survived into
I don't
Bridgerton
know. And it's like the
season
crown was like a
3.
consolation prize, like, hey, I was into you and your friends that you had there in your dress or whatever. I was really into that, and my
Well, I
and
think it was more about her feeling actual love for somebody. And I think it was more about her and less than it was about him, because she had
listen,
never experienced. Do I think he was wrong? 100%. Do I blame him? 100%. But do
that,
I think that she got what she needed out of it? I do.
I
I
mean,
do.
she had her garden tended.
But yes, but I think it was less about the tending as it was that she knew her garden was healthy, in the sense of like her heart and her soul and her body. Like, she knew that she was a woman who deserved more, and this was her more. This was her moment, this was her season. And I really appreciated that she got somebody that she enjoyed herself. Because I don't really think that she never really wanted to get remarried. Let's be honest. If Lady Danbury wanted to get remarried, she would have. And
Oh
she
yeah,
never
and
had.
definitely could have. Yeah,
Yes,
and definitely could
absolutely could
have.
have.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like that for Lady Danbury, that because especially to
Agreed,
go from
Monique.
an arranged marriage, she
Agreed.
was arranged. Her marriage was arranged, and she
Mm-hmm.
was given to her husband when she was a little girl. And it
Mm-hmm.
didn't matter that he was all the time. He was the age of her great 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 grandfather, um, and he he used to run
Yes.
around with Shaka Zulu himself. That
You're
that he
foolish. You're
yes,
foolish.
he owed Moses a quarter. So, and he was just jumping up and down on her, like, her face, like, I don't know if she had ever known pleasure. I'm sure she had never known love. Like, it was just an obligation of the position that she was in. And that was unfortunate. So for her to, even if it is funky Lord Ledger, I'm glad that she did what she needed to do for herself.
Listen, he
Uh,
got the books right. You know what I'm saying? The ledger was in the black, so that's all that matters. He got the books correct. So
That part.
and I do agree, Monique, that
Mhm.
Lady Danbury maneuvering on keeping her title in place in society without having to marry again. Facts.
And that was the one thing that I
He's the
loved
ultimate
about
queen.
the young version of her. She had no problem in making it uncomfortable. If the Queen Dowager, if I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with you, I'm gonna throw something out here. How you take it is how you take it, but that's what I'm on. You know what I'm saying? What's up with these titles? Are these permanent? You know what I'm saying? If this grand experiment don't work out, y'all taking these titles and kicking us out the town, like, no, we need more representation. We need to be treated correctly, and
And
it
I
had to
loved
be
it.
said.
And I loved it at the end when Charlotte came up to her and said, "Don't go to anybody else. You come
Hmm.
straight to me. You got some questions, concerns, problems. You come to me.
Yeah,
Come to the
where
man."
Charlotte even took it
Yeah.
was offended.
Was
I,
offended. Yeah.
yeah,
Like, why you going to these other people? You my
yeah. How
friend.
you not gonna tell me what's going on?
Right.
Am I not the queen? And do I not walk heavy, carry a big stick? Like, you come to me,
Yeah.
or we not friends? Like, you know what I'm saying? We not friends because
We're
I'll
not
talk to
cool
you
if I
as the queen
a
if
joke.
that's what you want. You know.
Right. And I think it spoke volumes to who they are now, present day, because I think that was the
Hmm.
beginning of the truth in their relationship. That moment
Yeah.
right there, like, you come to me if there's a thing,
Hmm.
you know, even when, like, and I know, switching back to three briefly, the moment when Violet and Danbury were standing in that window and they were contemplating having to tell Queen Charlotte that there may or may not, like,
Hmm.
I don't know what's going on, uh was that three or was that two? Now I'm getting confused. Was that
About there
Kate?
being no
Was
no
that with
wedding.
Kate? With no wedding? Yeah.
Yeah,
Was that
yeah,
with
that was
Kate?
what
That was Edwina, right?
Edwina. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got it confused.
Hmm.
I was like, for a second, I was like, wait, that wasn't in three. That was in two. That was Edwina.
Hmm.
Forgot
Hmm.
about that. Anyways, try to yeah. But I love that that was their beginning, because watching them grow was also a relationship that was worthy of watching grow and nurture, because there are elements in, these last seasons 2 and 3 that I felt were superfluous. You know what I mean? Like, there were these extra, like, threads that they were weaving together, and I don't care. I show up for one couple and possibly an interesting storyline that I wasn't checking for. But when you give
Hmm.
me all these, like, extra stuff that I A didn't ask for, B don't like, and C, why are you doing this to me? Then I felt like in Queen Charlotte, everything worked, everything connected, everything touched the circle was complete. By the
Hmm.
end of that, I could have had a season two, and I know we're not going to get a season two, but I would love a season two of Queen Charlotte.
A season two would be nice. A season following
Or
more
even
of
if
the
it were
exploits of
Agatha,
Lady Danbury.
because
Yeah,
we'd still
I'm
get
with it.
Queen Charlotte and King George. We'd still get
Right.
moments of them. But if
Hmm.
we followed Agatha and Lady Danbury's life, I'd be okay with
Hmm.
that.
I know that we had talked about this at the end of Bingeworthy when we were talking about season three, but and I don't want to jump ahead too, but I think off the strength of Danbury, which we don't see him and we probably won't see him because they were estranged, but her brother, I would like to see more of that, and I'm not talking about just him and Violet. I'm just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different places that we can go to build out the Bridgerton universe outside of just the books that Julia Quinn wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that really is, Demo says it, that, Shonda's a genius. Her skill was evident. Like,
Yeah.
she did some very deft writing, and it absolutely shows. Yeah, Monique says she would like to see more Marcus as well. Lord Anderson.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it was relevant.
yeah.
That was the thing, is that it was relevant, like, because they've already said that, and it's also a precedent has been set. Like in between each season of Bridgerton is 2 years. It was 2 years in
Oh,
between
okay.
season 1 and 2. We just happened, and then in between 2 and 3, we got Queen Charlotte. But they've already said that season 4 is not coming back until 2026. So if they were going to give us something, I would love if this became an anthology, I would be okay with that. Follow Danbury, or follow young Violet and meeting Lord Bridgerton. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody where we still get to see the young Queen Charlotte and King George, young Danbury, and like teenage Violet. I'd be okay with all of that.
What is and I know I don't want to jump in when we do our live where we talk about season 3. What is her name? Lady, is it Anderson that's with Benedict right now? What is her name?
No, I hate her. I don't care. Though they're on my list.
I think that they would probably end up doing an offshoot about her.
Wait, I'm sorry. Lady Anderson, the one in the polyamorous relationship?
Yeah.
You mean Benedict in the polyamorous relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lady Tilly Anderson, Hunting.
Yeah, Lady
I
Anderson.
blocked out her name.
Yeah,
I didn't even bother learning her name. So thank you very much, Hunting Violet, for sharing that.
Yeah, I remember Tilly, but I thought it was Lady Anderson. Yeah, Demo's right. Queen Charlotte was Shonda's baby, and so you can tell from the quality of the writing was above and beyond the Bridgerton stories, and that's not to
Yep.
crap on what Julia. That's not to crap on what Julia wrote, and I think it was Hunting Violets that told us that there's now a novelization of the Queen Charlotte story that Shonda and Julia Quinn wrote together.
Agreed. That's a good point.
I do like out of these 4 seasons, Queen Charlotte was the shortest, only 6 episodes, by far my favorite. Tilly Arnold, yes, Lady Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think that they want Tilly to continue that relationship with Benedict, and I'm pretty sure that they're not.
She doesn't want to. That was a great point that Hunting Violets had, that Tilly wanted Benedict.
Yeah.
Like she regretted introducing a third person into their relationship. And I saw that coming a mile away. I was like, girl, what you doing? The minute he started liking the old boy, you out.
I didn't see that coming, but
Oh, I did.
Nah, I ain't.
Yeah, he was giving him too many sideways glances.
That's too much. Yeah, Benedict's out there. My God, Benedict is out there.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, because he was out when she was like, yeah, I was just thinking about, just me and you getting back into it. And he's like, oh, some dude ain't coming. I was like, bruh, you done got turned out on this.
He was like, ooh, I mean.
I was like, all right, let's talk about another brother, because Benedict done pissed me off now. I was like, he was cool. He was the painter. He's a painter. He's out here. He's definitely, he was for the streets. he went down the wrong street, bro. No. Hey, this is two-way street. Bro. Okay, Benedict. You out here wilding, my boy. All right, Miss Cortney, we have hit the 1.5-hour mark.
Yes.
So we are going to wrap this thing up. I want to thank everyone who has shown up for us tonight, and especially you guys are always fire in the comments. Monique 69 Ways Johnson, Hunting Violets Demo. What else did we have?
Centel.
We have Snuzzle, Centel, Romar.
Snuzzle. And Jason from Germany.
Yeah, Jason. So, yes, thank everyone who showed up in the comments. Thank the people who are watching who were not in the comments. Thank you very much. If you stay with us, Please be on the watch on my page. If you've not already subscribed, please subscribe. Be on the watch on my page. Because I was voluntold by my good friend Cortney here, yes, I did finish Bridgerton. So we are going to come back and have a discussion, a little bit deeper discussion than what we did on Bingeworthy, that is solely about season 3.
And
But
even deeper
we
than we did
also have
here.
we also have another treat for you.
This was another one that I may have done a nice little nudge, little poke.
She did. She did. So I am not a reality TV person. I don't watch reality TV
ever.
Yeah, I got my feel, and I don't do reality TV. However, Courtney did point out this game show competition challenge show. This is a reality TV show with some modern day, B-list celebrities that we would know. And she told me that she thought that I would like the show. And she was right. It was fire. And we're going to talk about it. So in a couple weeks, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there so that if you have time, it's like 12, 13 episodes, I think, or 12 episodes, like 11 episodes. And then the reunion, there's a show called The Traitors. Y'all need to watch that show so that you are on point with us when we come back to talk about it. Because...
yeah. Centel, if you haven't watched it, I think that you would enjoy it. I think he'd get angry. I think there'd be a lot of yelling.
Yeah, I can see that completely because just some of the choices that were made. I mean, how would you describe the show? It was kind of part, what was that show? I never watched Survivor.
It's part Survivor and part, it's strategy. It really is strategy. It's almost like a game of poker because you're really not playing the game as much as you're playing the player, you know, and you're playing people against each other. So just real loosely as just a light plug, and hopefully some of you will have a chance to watch some or all of it. They bring a group of 22 people, or is it 20 or 22? Into the house, and then people are chosen to be traitors. Yes, Big Brother and Survivor had a baby. That's great. So a certain number of people are chosen to be traitors, and then the rest of the people are called faithfuls, and they're the ones that are supposedly the ones that are telling the truth about who they are in the game. And the traitors, meanwhile, are trying to convince everybody that they are also faithful so that they will not be found out. Because if one traitor is amongst the group of final 4 people at the end of the game, then the traitors win everything and faithfuls win nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're vying for a prize up to $250,000, but they have to do these challenges to increase the money to get up to $250,000. And I think at the end of the season, they got it up to almost $210,000, like $208,000 or something like that. So it was a sizable chunk of money. So to see how it all played out, Honey Vice says sounds like the mole times 10. What it made me think of the first time was there's a video game that my kids play called Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, somebody is among us is a killer, and you got to figure out who the killer is. And that's pretty much like it was like a live action version of Among Us, or a live action version of Clue, kind of in a way. You got to figure out who is the killer.
Yeah, there was a game. I don't know. There was a game, like a camp game, or
Look, I got to shout her out right quick. Lindy Milligan. She said, "Thank you for the great insight. Thoroughly enjoyed this. Heart is 5 in the morning here in Scotland." She's off to bed.
Thanks, Lindy.
Night. Thank you so much for showing up. Listen, did you know we was international? We had Jason show up from Germany. We had Lindy show up from Scotland. She showed up from Scotland.
Yes. Thank you.
Cheerio. Night.
I don't have a Scottish accent. Otherwise, I would do it.
I don't either.
I would do a really bad.
All of my accents are pretty. All of my accents are pretty bad.
Those are the only ones that I can do. But Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. And please, please, please subscribe to Newt from DeVille. You know what I mean? Sintel brought it up, and getting on up there to that 1,000K. So you know what I'm saying? Let's bring it on home, people.
Trying, but the thing is, regardless of all that, it is just nice to have these conversations and these little deep dives into these properties, these IPs that we love so much. And as y'all can see, I knew who to pick, and Centel immediately co-signed me. Cortney is so passionate about this stuff, so how could I not do this? How could I not talk about this without involving Cortney? And especially since she's the one who volunteered me to watch this anyways.
Yeah, since it was my fault, I could not say no. So thank you for having me. I am always happy to, jump in and just play. We always have great conversations. And thanks to everybody for your great insights and wisdom and knowledge of the books themselves. And yeah, and look forward to the next one.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Cortney, say your
What did I say last time? I said something about like, oh, dearest gentle readers. I talked about biscuits last time, but but thank you.
Thank you, Demo. Thank you, everyone. All right. Stay tuned, and we'll let you know when we're doing our next couple live streams.